Oh, there he
Oh,
is.
can y'all see and hear
There
me?
he is.
Yeah.
Can you guys all hear each other even? That's so funny.
Hold on.
Not in the office, only through here. We can't hear each other. We're all in different
Yeah.
places. So it works out so
I'm
that we can sit here.
downstairs. They're upstairs.
Yeah, we're spread out. But
Y'all
we're-
are hilarious.
It's
Where are you
gotten
at?
to the point where
Oh, go
I
ahead.
love it. That's my apartment. I was just telling them that one time I was doing one of these with a judge, and look, this was what my background was. Oh my
what's new in your world, Ann? What's been going on?
Oh, well, so I've got Parents Weekend this weekend. My daughter's up at Gettysburg College, so we're all excited about going up there. I miss her so much, and she was just home last weekend. It's been horrible. So she's my first to go off. My other one stayed at school in Memphis, and she's mean. So we weren't really missing her. We couldn't wait for her to move down the street. But the little one is my best friend. We do everything together. So it's just really hard for her.
My
to be
son is at college right now too, and I get sad.
sad. No one tells you that.
No, they don't prepare you for that.
No, it's horrible. Carson, there you go. Just put it away for the next 16 years.
So my oldest just turned 7 and my youngest is 4.5, first grade in pre-K. So it's still a sweet season where I feel like it's just nothing but fun. And I see them growing up and doing all the different things. So it's not, it's just, they're obviously growing and there's hard moments, but it's not like the really difficult moments of like you have an adult or like a true teenager where I feel like
they're
that's
not
where
drinking
some big
and
challenges.
smoking.
Yeah, right. Doing all the stuff.
I've got my niece and nephew are 16 and 15, and so they're getting there. My sister's already feeling it. So,
oh, your poor sister.
I know. Taking my niece and one of her friends to New York City to experience that as her 16th birthday gift. So I'm about to.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Uncle of the year.
Yeah, you awesome. Are. It's an awesome present. That's good. How's your dad getting along?
I don't know what I've signed up for him because
no, you don't.
I got Broadway tickets. I did, Rockefeller Center, like skating at, all that, did all that stuff. And then they're just like, have a list of all the shops they want to go to. So
yes, that's really all you need.
Taking 16-year-old shopping. So
that'd be cool.
Yeah,
I want to make sure they get some cultural experience too. So I'm making them go to Broadway and stuff.
Where are y'all staying?
The St. Regis, I think somewhere by Central Park. I got, a good hotel and got them like first class tickets and stuff just because they've never done anything like this. And it's if you think, like as an uncle and you've got a 16-year-old niece, it's probably the only time you're going to take them on a trip. I mean, maybe not, I hope not, but it may be. So it's like, I wanted to make it memorable.
Do it right. Well, the Nordstrom's up there is really good. And that's where I take my girls. In fact, the last time we all went, we went in there 3 different times. So if you're looking and then you can sit in a bar in the Nordstrom's.
Just say, be back here. And that's a good idea. Okay.
Nordstrom's is because it's huge. It's got everything they want. And they have all the Kim Kardashian line and literally it's just chock full of the crap they
want. With the podcast, that's what I needed. So
yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, for those that are listening, thank you for joining us on the Retire While You Work podcast. We have a special guest today, Ann Hammer, who is practices family law here in Nashville and in Memphis. So Ann, just give us an introduction about yourself and how you got started.
Sure. Oh, okay. Awesome. I will. I'm good at that. I went to law school at NYU. I'm a Tennessee girl. I went to University of Tennessee, Knoxville for undergrad and went to New York for law school. And when I came back, I was practicing for a big firm here in Nashville, Bass, Berry & Sims, and learned to be a litigator. And after that, I became a stay-at-home mom for a while. And when I went back to work, I went back as a family law attorney. One of my best friends had her own firm, and she had asked me to come back and work for her. And I thought it had a good work-life balance. So that was, you can pick how many clients you want to take and do it that way and not be overwhelmed like big firm life. And it turned out to be a really good practice for me for that reason. And then 7 years ago, I got divorced myself, which was at the time a big shock to me. And after that, I just felt really, really committed about helping people who were going through divorce. It became more of a true life commitment for me to do this as a living. And I think it shows with my clients. They know I've been through it. I've walked exactly where they're walking. So it's helpful to them, I think, to know that I'm not just giving them advice based on my clients in the past. I'm giving them life advice that I've learned myself. So that turned out to be a sad time that turned into something really, really fulfilling for me and worked out great. So sometimes life has silver linings.
There's nothing better than going through something yourself and actually have some personal conviction to it. Clients, and I think clients can pick up on that and value that.
Yeah,
Well,
even on the wealth management front, even on our side too.
Yeah,
obviously,
sure.
like a client only retires once, and hopefully somebody only goes through a divorce process one time in their life. So obviously, it can happen again, but same for retirement. But we have those personal experiences, and obviously, all of us have our own money experiences and go through it, and we can have testament to, but also it just helps you relate, and it's a relationship thing. I'm sure so much of what you do is a relationship.
I feel like all of it.
Yeah, we joke around like personal finance. It's 80% personal and 20% finance. It's mostly being Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
Because that's what, I mean, you look at things like, we could do a whole podcast on AI, but like where things like, people value the human experience and human connection, stuff that you can go online and say, how can I get divorced cheap? Or how can I do a collaborative divorce and all these things? But at the end of the day, people want to have this interaction with someone like you or someone like us when it comes to their finances, because it is extremely personal and it's not something that it's not robotic and it's not automated. Sure, you can do it that way, but I think you would be able to attest to that. Good luck having two people. They start off saying, you know what, I just want this to be really quick and I want it to be agreeable. And they may have that intention, and they start Googling and looking up forums and how to do this. And then before you know it, something goes sideways, and then they don't have representation and they end up spending more money and going backwards.
Yeah, AI can't do it for you yet. And I don't think it ever will. Just there's so much emotion involved in it. But just from even what I can tell, when I use AI all the time just to see where it is, how far it's developed as far as it being helpful for me, and it's still not there. I can use it for some things, limited things, but it can't do legal research and analysis. It's just not there yet.
Yeah, exactly. We do the same thing. We use it for some things and we know where it's limited, and clients, they can say, hey, I have 100 grand, invest my money, show me a portfolio, and it can do it. But there's so much more that you need input from a professional to know how to query AI, to know how to, it's garbage in, garbage out. So if you're not asking any questions and no context, but yeah, I mean, what would you say, like the biggest misconception is that people have about divorce attorneys or just the process in general? Yeah, I'll just leave it at that, because I know we get people coming to us all the time that are getting divorced, and then we go and find someone like you to help them. So I have an idea of how I'd answer that question, but I want to hear from you.
I think people come in thinking well, they come at me two ways on that, but I have a lot of very financially savvy people who come into me and think it ought to be very easy. They're going to just put together an assets and liabilities spreadsheet. Their spouse is going to agree, and they're going to split it up, and here's how much alimony they're going to pay or they're going to get, and that's the end of it. And it just doesn't work that way, because the law is specific about different types of contributions and needs that people have. I would prefer it, obviously, if they do come in with an assets and liabilities spreadsheet that we can all look at. But for my business-minded clients, they think it's just going to be like any other business deal. And typically, they are not married to someone who has that same mindset. Sometimes I will get to highly sophisticated, financially sophisticated, business sophisticated individuals. They can do a little bit better job of looking at, these are our stock holdings, and these are bonds. And this is an annuity, and how will that work for each of us to get each of those pieces? But a lot of people think they ought to be able to just come in and get it done, and it takes a lot longer than that, especially if there's assets that have to be valued, or one spouse is being surprised by what the assets are.
Yeah. That's how I would answer the question. I would say they just think in theory, it should be easy and quick. Let's say it's a man comes in and he's like, oh yeah, we've got $5 million, we're going to split it up. Here's the balance sheet. But then it's this, but except for this was mine before. This is my business. We're not going to talk. That's mine. And they kind of move it over. Right. So,
Yeah. That's exactly right.
You made a big assumption. You made a big assumption that the court may not make.
Yeah. And what I also have been finding lately, because Nashville, with the real estate having been such a huge boom and now settling in, is we're getting clients who felt like I'm okay putting a third of my portfolio or half my portfolio or more. Sometimes it's 2/3 is their house value. And they're young and they're in their early 40s and they're not anticipating divorce when they make the choice to buy that big house. and now they're getting divorced, and there's a, $2.5, $3 million house to split up, but then there's only maybe $1 million in assets somewhere. And that is, that's tough. That's really tough. That's because somebody wants that house and they think they're going to live in it. And, it really changes their lifestyle. And that's where I see a lot of them kind of go into shock. Like, oh, neither one of us are keeping this big house, and where are we going to live? And what are we going to do about private school? And all of that. That's just something that with the Nashville market, we're seeing more and more, especially now the way the houses aren't moving like they used to.
And it's probably the same way of saying, like, or from the same context, that I'll hear people say, like, joke around like, God, sometimes it's too expensive to get a divorce. And so they stay together, like when the kids are maybe a certain age, because it's like the house is worth X amount of money. And if one of us keeps it, we're not going to have the income to pay, to keep it. And so then we have to refinance it. And so a lot of times people just kind of.
Right. We had a lot of that in '08 because people were upside down in their houses. That was the time. And then I'm starting to see that here. We get clients in who, their houses are going to be foreclosed, their mortgages are in default, and they've just overpaid for something that now they can't unload and make money on, like in the old days. So it's still just sort of that's a little new for my Nashville clients to see their portfolio change that dramatically. And if they're not ready for it, it's like Jerry said, they're going to have to sit put for a little bit.
Even with, emotions are so heavily involved when in a divorce process, better than we do. And same thing with investing it's so emotional. I know we like to sit here and put it in its own box and say that, okay, just invest based on these rules. The stock market is, going to be up and down, but it's going to go up over time. And if you just sit it as that, then okay, sure, it's easy to invest until we have what happened back in April, where the stock market dropped 20% so quickly, and all of a sudden, everyone's emotions come up. Like even us as professionals, we have emotions when it comes in the stock market, but it's whether or not you let those emotions dictate your decision. So what we see is the value we can bring, and I'm sure for you too through the process is, yes, we can be aware of those emotions, but it's whether or not those emotions dictate your decisions that you're making. That's where you as the professional can say, I know this is emotional. I know this is hard, but let's go back to the foundation. What do we know? What's going to be in your best interest when we're going through this divorce? And then you can coach somebody.
Carson, that's 100% what we do. When people come in and they're emotional about their money, same as they come to you, they aren't making good decisions. And so I know one of the reasons I think what you all do is so valuable is because you do educate your clients where they can make those decisions. They understand their portfolios, they understand their savings plan, they understand their retirement plan. And when they have that understanding, it's easier for them to know, well, now that I'm only going to have half of that, what's that going to look like? And for people who don't have that understanding of what their life is going to look like and how they can plan for it, then they just think of everything sort of knee jerk. Emotions get wrapped up in it, and then what that does is drive up attorney fees. So I try to explain to them, we can do this the very easy way. I can tell you exactly what a judge is going to do. Within a very, very narrow range.
Within 5 or 10%, wouldn't you say? You could say from the beginning, this is what's going to end up happening. How we get there is up to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. 100%. With these judges around here, yes, for sure. They are all real practical minded. They've got divorce experience, and yes, I think so. With the property division, for sure. Alimony can go a little bit either way because Williamson County has a little bit different standard of living out there right now. But no, we can predict even on that pretty closely. And if they would just all listen to us, then we could get it done for them a lot
easier said than done. Easier said than done.
Yeah. But it is emotional, so it's hard.
Yeah.
So
one of the things
I'm going to ask, what do you think, what's this thing that stands out the most that people are unprepared for when they start the whole process?
Totally the finances. Totally. There is almost without a doubt a spouse who either didn't know anything about the financial situation they were in, or a spouse. Sometimes what we're seeing now with so much mental illness going on and really, frankly, so much addiction, we might have a spouse who should understand it, but has just been out in la la land and doesn't. So it might be someone who's a perfectly capable business person, but just is been ignoring whatever's going on at home, or not being realistic. But yeah, there's usually one who just does not have any idea, and they get either inflated ideas in their head about what they ought to have and how their lifestyle ought to look after divorce, or they feel like they're going to be completely broke, and what are they going to do, and this whole thing's going to just kill them. And not everybody who gets divorced divorces Jeff Bezos, so we don't all end up like Mackenzie Scott. So with that said, you have to look at, well, what am I getting? If my husband's a public school teacher, my life's going to look very different if I divorce him than it is if I'm divorcing Jeff Bezos. It's just two different things. And a lot of times it's hard for people to understand how expensive attorneys are, and why fighting over it when you've got a net worth that doesn't justify that is just crazy.
It's not. Yeah, and that's why also, like, that's why discovery is so important. It's like you mentioned, I can think of a client that we have together currently. I mean, they're waiting on this discovery because they don't really know what the partner has, and so part of the time is they think like he or she's been hiding assets and this and that, and I know there's this other account, so there's this anxiety around waiting on discovery to come in, and then when you get that discovery, that's where really Carson and I, being certified divorce financial analysts, that's where we then take that discovery, and it's important to start saying, well, let's start with how much we think you need. So a lot of times it's like, well, I just want this to be done. Give me $1 million and I'm done. And we say, time out. Let's do a financial plan. Let's educate you. They may say, well, I need 20,000 a month to live on. I'm like, well, my goodness, you can't, $1 million isn't going to do that. That'd be 20% of your portfolio a year. So let's walk through, build a financial plan. And through that plan, we may find out, okay, I'm making this up. You need $3 million. If you're not going to be able to go back to work for 4 or 5 years and you're raising a child, whatever, you need $3 million to keep you in a comfortable position. So at a minimum, we need to get that. And that a lot of times gives them the education and the tools to be better prepared on what the fight needs to look like, what they need to do in mediation, making sure that they don't just walk away for something that's going to put them in a bad situation in a couple of years. I mean, that's kind of the way
Yeah, 100%. I do think it's really hard for people if they can't, and I can't do it. I can do it through AI, extrapolate the time value of money, but everybody needs to be able to look at that and say, I'm going to come out with a chunk of money. What's that going to produce for me? And then what's my alimony going to look like? Or if I'm the payer of the alimony, what's that look like reducing my ability to earn and save back and rebuild? So, that's generally the nervousness on both sides, is what's rebuilding going to look like, and what's retirement going to look like. What I try to explain to my younger people who come in and they kind of want the divorce and they don't want the divorce, depending on how old you are, you are hitting prime earning years that you will then be splitting up with this person. So if you think, and you already kind of in your heart of hearts know that this is not the person you're spending the rest of your life with, don't give it another 10 years, because then the target on your back's just growing bigger and bigger for alimony, or a big giant property division that you have to come back from at 55, at 65. People say they want to wait for those kids to get into college, and that's super emotional choice that people make. And it can be a very loving choice in ways, but it also doesn't set you up necessarily for the best financial benefit to you. That's what I'd say.
That's right. Yeah, and you mentioned like alimony. A lot of times alimony's 5, 6, 7 years, whatever, and so it's helping that person understand when that alimony runs out. We need the nest egg. If you get $1 million and 12,000 a month alimony, you can't just spend the million as well. We have to let that grow to then replace that 12,000 a month in 7 years. And so explaining that, so that what happens if that alimony goes away and you've spent the million on a house. So the education around that, so that they can walk out of that to then come to you or be prepared for mediation and to say, okay, it feels like the magic numbers around X amount of money, that $3 million I need to have plus the house, and then I can accomplish X, Y, Z. That takes away so much of the anxiety that we found, versus just getting a lump sum and then finding out a year from now, like, oh my gosh, I forgot I had to buy a house, a car, I had to pay tuition. He was supposed to pay tuition. He lost his job. Now he's not paying, and all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think having guys like you guys and girls like Jerry Ann around, one thing I noticed when they've already got their financial planners, then the documents are all together. The money's all in one place. Everyone understands we've got this much in this kind of a portfolio. We've got this much over here invested in X. I've got a risk appetite for X. He's got a risk appetite for Y. We're going to let him take those. That's so helpful, especially if both parties already trust their financial planner. Oh my gosh, it makes it so easy. The financial planners just provide us the financials, and then it's time to split it up. What's the fairest way? And to me, every family needs financial planners. That's where your retirement ought to be going. That's where your savings ought to be going and your investments ought to be going, so that if things do go wrong, and it's not just divorce, it's death, right? So if you're an estate planning lawyer, you ought to be sending everybody into you guys as well, because that way the person knows if this income stops, like you just said, what if they do lose their job, or what if they die? And then what does our insurance look like? My ex-husband had $1 million life insurance, and I'm thought, that ain't going to do it, buddy. Do you know how long we're going to get by on that? Like, no time. So that's one of those things. People think, oh, $1 million seems like a lot of money. But if he had died at 35 and I'm raising 2 kids.
Oh yeah, no, that would have put a lot of pressure on you. What speaking of, you mentioned being organized, what percentage of people come in for divorces do you think have a nice buttoned up set of plans with a financial planner? What?
About 2%.
Blank show.
Literally about 2%.
Not I thought you might say 50.
Right.
No.
Wow.
Nobody comes in with it all buttoned up.
It's unbelievable, really. It's been really shocking to me, because when they do come in, I'm, yay, thank you. This will be so easy. And both of you trust your financial advisor.
It's more unique for somebody to come in and like give you what you need.
And even taking that a step further, how often is it where both spouses are involved as well? Because it might be buttoned up, but it might just be one
Very
spouse knows everything about the financial situation and the other spouse is just left in the dark.
And then
it's
you got
very, very rare. It's very
manipulation, and somebody knows everything and they can kind of control the flow of data.
I mean, we see that too with our clients. I mean, it's usually
one's interested, and the other one says, it's a handoff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's hard. They're signing tax returns they don't look at. They're, not aware of what
yeah. I mean, I have a friend who she's not getting a divorce because she says, what's the point at this point? They've been married forever, but she didn't have a clue. She had no clue. And he had basically spent all their money. And then she found out at like age 55, and she's like, what?
And I feel like even a lesson from that is maybe, there's obviously different roles in marriages that everybody takes on. Like, of course, in my relationship with my wife, I do most of the money stuff, but I at least try to take this step forward of like, hey, here's what we have going on. Like, let me lay out, the transparency and say, here's all of our accounts. Here's where everything, if something ever happens to me, here's like the cheat sheet of where everything's at, just to provide that layer of transparency.
Husband of the year.
Yeah. Good job on that person.
But it's like most people don't have that. So I would say as like an action item for someone that's listening who may not be involved in the marital finances, I would say take that first step just to say, hey, teach me, let me learn, not to take it over and step on toes, but let me learn so that I can just be knowledgeable and be in the know about the family finances.
Yeah, usually that other person doesn't know even how much money you have.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And one thing what they don't probably realize either is that you all, as their financial advisor, even if they're the person who's not always in the meetings or keeping up the contact, that you all are fiduciaries for both spouses. So for either one of them to be able to come in, they're going to get the full information. They're going to learn everything. I would tell, like, the action item, I would agree with Carson. And I would say, if you're listening to this and you're even remotely concerned now because you think, I don't know, you need to make sure you can see every single bank account. There shouldn't be a bank account or a financial account anywhere with a login and password you don't have. You ought to sit down with them and look at them. If you do have your financial advisor, you should call them and just say, I want a one-on-one appointment. I want to see everything we've got. Same at your bank. There just shouldn't even be a bank account you can't see. That's how I would look at it. And then I would want to know, what's the debt on my cars? What's the debt on, do we have extra property? Are we carrying a mortgage on that? Do we have a HELOC? You'd be surprised. People don't even know what a HELOC is and find out they have one.
When I see people, they come in, they mistake like, well, that's okay. Like, I don't want to know all that. He's the numbers guy. You don't need to mistake that with he in that situation can still do it, but you need to be educated. And so to Carson's point, the easiest exercise I've come up with, I'm like, look, if you don't want to have weekly family finance meetings and you don't want to go to your financial planner meetings and all those things, fine, I get it. I think you should, but fine, I get it. At a minimum, have the person who's doing the finances on a Saturday afternoon. It'll take 2 hours, get a piece of paper or a Microsoft Word document, and start typing, literally just brain dump. Pretend if you passed away tomorrow, just say it could be this simple. Our financial advisors are David Carson and Jerry Ann. We have $2.8 million. It's in these 5 accounts. If anything happens, call them. Here's the login, blah, blah, blah. We also have 800,000 in cash at, Pinnacle Bank, blah, blah, blah. This is my a personal banker. And just do that and then say, I pay all the bills using this. If you brain dump in those 2 hours, those 2 hours could save, like if you passed away, it could save your, a lot of time, and us a lot of times, because we've had to go through that and try to go through old paperwork and help them figure out stuff, but help your widow figure all that out. But as it comes to a divorce, or hopefully not a divorce, just knowing that information during the marriage makes it so much easier if, God forbid, you do go through a divorce, or if your partner gets injured or something like that. But we see it all the time. It's only in a very catastrophic situation that people are coming and trying to figure out all this information. So we're trying so hard when we get new clients, and I can sense that one of them's talking about the money and kind of silencing the other one, or the other one's looking down at the ground to say, "Hey, what do you know about the money? How do you feel about it? Or do you have any anxiety around it? Do you understand it? Can we spend 30 minutes with you and kind of walk you through some things?" And understand your 3 buckets of money and all that. So I just think that's so important. Don't mistake. I don't need to know, about it.
Yeah.
One page document could change everything.
Well, and I'll give you a little sneak you can do. This is for the people who may be considering divorce. If you have recently applied for a loan with the bank, so your mortgage, something big, right? There will be a statement, a loan statement. And the loan statement, whoever filled it out, is trying to look good for the bank. So they are going to put every asset on there. And if you think, we bought our house 5 years ago, and I really don't know what all we've got, and I don't want him knowing I'm looking around, get it from your bank. You've signed a mortgage statement, I guarantee it. So that's one way we go about finding that information if we think somebody's hiding it, because people are very generous with their own assets on a mortgage statement that all of a sudden seem to shrink back a little bit when divorce gets going. So it's a good place to start. Obviously, your tax returns are a great place to start. And it's hard to read a tax return, especially a big, complex one. So again, take your tax returns, go into your accountant. You can get your tax returns on the web and print them out at Kinko's if you don't even have a printer at home. And just take that into an accountant. Hire an accountant for 5 seconds to look at them and explain to you what is a K1? What does this mean we're doing? What's getting written off? Those things.
Absolutely.
Education is powerful.
I was going to say, we were talking about judges in court earlier. I was going to ask, what percentages of divorce actually goes to court? Versus you settling in a mediation?
Maybe 10% is what I'd say.
So it's still pretty low.
I try I'm in court every week, but I try with full-on witnesses and all of that, maybe 2-3 cases a year. And I settle a gabillion more than that. So most people are savvy enough after they get into the process to understand they will save money. They will not get a better deal in court. It is so, so rare. If you feel like you trust your lawyer, and you ought to feel like you trust your lawyer, then your lawyer's giving you the best advice they can give. And they're going to say, I've been in front of this judge, or I know people in my firm who have, and I also know what the Court of Appeals is going to do, right? So, sometimes you're sort of extrapolating out, well, we might lose this, but we can appeal it because this is the law. And if the law is really clear, there's always cases, divorce is so fact specific, but if the law is clear, or there's an average you can kind of take across the board of how things are going to go, then that's how things are going to go. And as long as your lawyer can tell you that, you ought to believe them. And one of the things that I think people waste so much money on, they fight over the stupidest stuff. I was in court this morning, and these people were fighting over which of their 5 cars they were going to let the kids drive. Well, I don't know. Pick one. It's not hard. And the judge was so mad about it. She said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I have a luncheon to go to. You all will get to come back at 4:00 this afternoon and tell me what you think. And then I'm going to tell you which car your kids are going to drive or not drive. I was like, there you go. Like, you're going to waste your whole day now sitting around waiting to come back to court because the two of you can't go out in the hall and say, let the kids drive the RAV4. That's just, I'm paying lawyers to sit around all day too. Can you imagine?
Yeah. And I guess so, but versus that would make you think, well, then why don't people just right away go to mediation and settle? Tell me, is it because people have to go through the process a little bit, feel a little bit of pain, pay the first 10, 20 grand to an attorney and start going, oh my gosh, this is going to take forever. Let have a little bit of pain before they go to mediation. Otherwise everyone would settle. Or how,
Yeah, sometimes. And I know one of the things people always ask me is, like, what's the process look like, right? And what am I in for? Anytime that there is not an easy way to get the information. So with you all, if I could just, roll up into Raymond James and say, give me all their accounts, and you're like, these are the accounts, we don't have to do discovery. But for cases where people don't know and understand what's been going in and out of the bank account, we have to do discovery, which means they're going to be turning over a lot of documents. We may, if in a complex case, have people like you guys come analyze what's our alimony ask, what's the asset split need to be, what are some options there, what are some kind of fun ways. I know, David, you and I did one where the husband had a bunch of weird businesses, and we were kind of
yeah,
like, well, give him the weird businesses, then he can handle
yeah,
those.
yeah.
Go, take the risk on that, let him take
Take
that.
that. We want the liquidity. We want the cash. We
Yeah.
want the CDs. We want the stuff we understand. You take
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Just
We don't necessarily want the weird restaurant down in the
yeah,
nations where nobody's going yet. Like,
yeah,
I want to know that I'm gonna see that money, and not that it's going out the door at an Italian restaurant run by like
right.
my high school best friend. So that to me is it just takes a while when you have a big estate, or when you have a complicated estate, especially if there's a family owned business
Yeah.
that you've got a value, or it's a privately owned business. I've got a guy right now who owns 50% of something, and another 50% of something that owns 50%. It's one of those. So that's all got to get valued. The wife is a nurse. So of course she's not going to sit down and figure it out.
Right.
That's when we have to call in experts. And that's okay. There are great experts
Yeah.
who look through every bank account and figure it out. They
It
really
takes
do.
time, and it makes it drag out longer. It costs more money. But if you're in that situation that's complicated, it behooves the person who doesn't understand it to get the discovery, because they need to know. Like they
That's
can
right.
leave millions on the table.
That's right. And take it to the experts, and then let the experts work the plan. That's really how it's got to go. Because you need to know going into mediation what's your top and what's your bottom, and you're not going to know that until you see, all right, what's
Right.
realistic.
Sure.
What can I live? What can I get by on, and what can I not?
We're gonna.
What do I need a private pool when I get out of all this, or am I just going to keep the country club membership? And that's talking high end divorce. People who
Mhm.
who are
Yeah.
third. It's first world problems, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
fighting
right.
over airline miles. I mean,
Yeah,
we've heard it all.
yeah,
We've heard it all.
yeah.
But so in divorce, two big, like you've got the financial, and then you've got like the parenting plans. Those are the two big. I mean, two big
Those
things.
are the two big things.
Which is there one that you see people hold up a divorce longer than the other, or is it just kind of depend on
It
the?
it can be either one. That they can spend
Yeah.
a ton of time and money on parenting issues that should not be issues. One thing I try to tell my people when that's what's going on is, you don't have any influence over this person anymore. When you're married to someone, when they love you, then they do care what you say. If you say, I don't think we should be sending the kids to private school, or I do think we ought to be investing at Raymond James, or I want to be more aggressive in my investing, whatever it is, if they love you, they will be listening to you. But once you file for divorce, or they file for divorce, you just need to assume they don't love you anymore. They're not willing to work things out with you unless you can act right. So you cannot try to manipulate them anymore. You can't use the things that worked in the past, when you were married. And I'm not saying negatively manipulate them, but all marriages have their give and take. You're in a new situation now. You need to treat it like a business deal. And that should be how it is with the kids. You love your kids. What's the best thing for them? That just needs to be done on a day by day basis. That should not be hard, but it is unbelievably hard for people. I've never seen anything like, some of these people just cannot make an agreement with someone they walked down the aisle with and said they were going to love forever. It cannot be that hard, but they will get their emotions just way too involved when it's not good for them or for the kids.
That makes sense. I was thinking, like, is there any big updates just in the law here in Tennessee that's kind of impacting the divorce process in the last couple of years, or anything?
Yeah, what I would say, what I would kind of get everybody ready for is this 50-50 parenting time is coming down. We are, sadly, a lot of our older judges are retiring, and they tended to take a more conservative approach. But if you're a dad and you want 50-50 time in Davidson or Williamson County, you are really this is your time to shine. We've got judges who are very open to it. We're filling a new judgeship here in Davidson County. The governor's got to appoint somebody, and it'll be someone much younger than our prior judge, and they'll have a different outlook on life. So I think that's
70% the mom, 30% the dad, something like that. Is that
like
what you mean?
every other
Yeah,
weekend and
yeah,
every Wednesday?
yeah. The typical would be Thursday through Monday morning, every other weekend, and maybe every Thursday night. The other thing I'll be warning people about is this CBD THC. Some judges just don't care. They're like, okay, you tested positive for it, but how are you proving that they're doing it with the kids? But some of my judges don't care that you can go buy it at, Walgreens. They don't care that it's at the liquor store in the form of some CBD water, THC water. They don't care that you can, go up to Indiana and get it. If you test positive, you are not going to see your kids, or you're going to have a very restricted parenting time. So I had a client.
Did they make you? Does the other spouse say, "Oh, you're on drugs, you need to test" or something?
What tends to happen is people who have had maybe an alcohol or substance abuse problem that already have a parenting plan in place, or where the spouse can prove that they have been using during the divorce, right? So a plan gets in place to drug test that person. And let's say they're testing for, I don't know, maybe cocaine or oxy, okay? And all of a sudden they pop up positive for marijuana, and they're like, I don't smoke marijuana. And I'm going, well, what? Oh, I'm taking these CBD gummies. Now, we've got other clients where the judges just don't care. They're like, no, he's taking CBD sleep gummies. I'm not worried about it, right? So you just don't know, but you ought to be thinking about it. And if you're the kind of person who has that going on, and you think your spouse is coming after you on that, that is a new thing we're seeing as a real problem, because the judges can't figure it out. No one can.
No, it's weird.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird. That's weird.
So that, and then the 50-50 plan, it's going to become more and more.
Those are the big things that I'm seeing, that now it makes it that we've been kind of surprised on, or that we're seeing a change.
Which then will lower that'll adjust child support too. If it's 50-50, that's going to affect the child support calculations too.
Yeah. Yes. So then you're looking at, well, now what's my alimony need to look like, because that's not happening, or what is my now my career opportunity, because I've got these full weeks to myself. You can really kill it if you've got a whole week where you're not picking up after school. I mean, that's just makes it a lot easier.
Right.
What for a kind of like as a final question, kind of wrap things up a little bit. What is, we've walked through divorces with clients. We've ended up, walking alongside the attorney to provide advice on the financial side of things. When does it make sense? What does it look like to have a good relationship with a financial advisor to come in and help through the divorce process? And based on your experience, what does that collaboration look like, and what value does it bring?
With you two, they need to, number one, get them in there right away. And I do believe they need to get them in there right away. There's no reason for us all to try to, I know we also need our experts who can dig through the discovery for, to sort of piece together an assets and liabilities spreadsheet. And then we need to be able to bring that to you guys and say, now what? Now, how do we divide this up? And what kind of money can they either afford to pay out, or what kind of money do they need to take in? And then how are their investments going to help them? I've got a client right now who keeps saying she's not going to have retirement. And I'm like, you're going to have $2 million. So in her mind, I don't know, she's thinking about buying a house or something with that, but that's not what's going to happen. That $2 million will go in the bank and grow, grow, grow. And the sooner she can understand that, the easier it's going to be for us all to, push a real settlement offer out. And that's what you guys are so helpful with, is once they get that understanding, we develop a settlement offer with you. And then the other thing, of course, I love working with y'all in actual mediation, because there are such moving pieces, and the tax implications, obviously. Are you getting the house? Are you getting the 401k? Are you getting flat investments? Is it cash? So thinking through all those things and a person's life plan, that needs to be on a person's mind from the day they start being divorced or getting divorced till they get finished. That just needs to be their mindset, so they can start working toward that, right?
$1 million cash versus somebody offering $1 million of a highly appreciated stock that's going to cost $200,000 in taxes to liquidate, and the spouse needs that to buy. Like, every asset's not the same. So like, we really have to look at what's better for the client that we're representing. Like, hey, we'd rather take that asset than that asset.
Exactly.
It's the same number on the balance sheet. It's not the same for how you're going to need to use it.
No, and really, one bit of advice I try to give to everybody is don't get wed to this house, especially not in Davidson and Williamson County. They're just you're going to get stuck with a big piece of investment that may not be appropriate for you. That your financial advisor would never let you make that decision
On
if
your
you
own.
were single.
That's right.
Right. So
Mhm.
don't get emotionally invested in the house. There's a lot of ways we can work that out. You can live in it for a couple of years. You can share it. I've had clients literally share, go upstairs and downstairs, figure out the basement.
Yeah.
Whatever. You don't want to go, don't go. But don't get wed to that thing if you're thinking you're going to have to stay in it and pay that mortgage. It doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of ways to think about your financial future and don't get stuck on any one big idea. Be flexible.
Yep. Well, God, we could talk about this all day. You've been great, and you are great, and we've enjoyed knowing you as a friend, and also doing stuff for clients together. So, great resource for us. Thank you. We'll continue to stay in touch with you, and we'll be sure if you're to get this out to people so they can replay it and figure out how to find you if they're unfortunately going through a divorce.
Absolutely. Just look me up on the web. It's easy to find me, or they can call you guys.
That's right.
Awesome.
And thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you next time on the Retire While You Work podcast.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Any opinions are those of myself and not necessarily those of Raymond James. Expressions of opinion are as of this date and are subject to change without notice. The information contained in these podcasts do not purport to be a complete description of the securities market or developments referred to in this material. The information has been obtained from sources considered to be reliable, but we do not guarantee that the foregoing material is accurate or complete. Every investor's situation is unique, and you should consider your investment goals, risk tolerance, and time horizon before making any investment. Prior to making an investment decision, please consult with your financial advisor about your individual situation. Any hypothetical examples are for illustration purposes only. Actual investor results will vary. Raymond James does not provide legal or tax services. Please discuss these matters with the appropriate professional.